Well, welcome everyone, and thank you for attending my senior project presentation on autism, the Smarter Strengths. That's my little brother. So why am I interested in autism? As some of you may know, I have an autistic 7-year-old brother who has had countless of therapy since he was 1 year old. My personal involvement in his development and success, and my family's love and support of Anthony's autism has motivated me to learn more about autism in order to help those in need. I'll start by defining the autism spectrum disorders, the ASDs, which is a group of complex disorders of brain development. These disorders are characterized by difficulties in social interactions, verbal and nonverbal communications, and repetitive behaviors. There are 5 different disorders that line the spectrum, as you can see. The first one is the autistic disorder, also known simply as autism, which I will explain in the next slide. Asperger's disorder is considered to be in the high-functioning end of the spectrum, since they don't have a significant delay in language, but they do have difficulties with social interactions and exhibit a restricted range of interests and or repetitive behaviors. The next one, childhood disintegrative disorder. It's a very rare disorder, because for these children, they start developing normally for 1 or 2 years old, and then all of a sudden, they lose some or most of their communication and social skills. Rett's disorder, that is primarily on girls. They also begin to lose their communication and social skills around the ages of 1 through 4. They lose purposeful use of hands and begin to develop repetitive hand movements. The last one is called pervasive developmental disorder, not otherwise specified, very long word. And it's a group of children who have some autistic behaviors but cannot fit into any other category. I actually found out 2 days ago that my brother has PDD. I always thought he has autistic disorder because he only suffered or showed a few autistic symptoms, such as a lack of verbal skills, and social interaction with other kids, and lack of awareness of danger. He luckily, after so many therapies, 7 years of therapies, he can now communicate with us in full sentences, and he's also in regular classes. He is ahead of his class in math and reading, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's our next little Einstein. So I will be focusing primarily on the first one, the autistic disorder, which I said is also known as autism. So not to get confused, when I say autism, I'm referring to autistic disorder. And when I say ASD, I'm referring to the whole spectrum. So what is autism or autistic disorder? It occurs with children younger than 3 years old, and they show problems with social interactions, communication, and imaginative play. Prevalence. Sadly, I don't know the exact number of autistic individuals living in the United States as of 2015, but I did find a study in 2014, the CDC's Autism and Developmental Disabilities Monitoring conducted a study among 8-year-olds living in 11 different states to see how many had autistic disorders. They found a shocking result of 1 in 68 of those children were diagnosed with a type of ASD, and also that boys are 5 times more likely to be autistic than girls. Causes. Unfortunately, autism's causes are still unknown, yet many scientists believe that it is caused by a combination of genetic and environmental factors. Some believe that there is a certain number of genes, around 14, that are affected by autism. Children who have siblings with ASD or who are born with Fragile X also have a higher chance of being autistic. I also learned that women who take valproic and thalidomide, I may have pronounced that wrong, during pregnancy, and older parents also have a higher chance of having autistic children. Common symptoms. There are many common symptoms, as this can show. One of them is inappropriate playing with toys, meaning they would stack the toys into piles or sort them by color or size instead of moving the car along the road like other kids would do. Also, inability to relate to others and their desire to be alone for most of the time. Difficulty dealing with changes to routine. A simple change in a toothbrush or toothpaste would upset the child a lot. Also, lack of awareness to danger, which my brother actually still has. They would sometimes cross the street without looking both ways or get lost very quickly at the supermarket, like the parents' worst nightmare. And also oversensitive or undersensitive to sounds. I actually experienced this firsthand when I was at one of my internships. A child would get very upset if he would hear the fire alarm, and he would think that it was his fault. We weren't sure why he thought that, but he would just get very upset. Diagnosis. There's a comprehensive evaluation. It typically includes clinical observation, parent interviews, psychological testings, and assessments of speech and language. These evaluations take weeks, if not months, to complete before the final diagnosis. Treatment. Luckily, there are many treatments nowadays for autistic children. I will only talk about 3. These are the ones practiced at my 2 internships of this summer. May, not summer. The first one is ABA, which is Applied Behavioral Analysis, and it uses the principles of learning and motivation to change behavior. So during these sessions, which are at home and or at school, the tasks are broken down into small, simple steps, and if the child does them correctly, she or he would get rewarded. So for example, in the top picture, after matching a correct picture, the child would then have a break time to go play with another toy and then come back and finish the game. Usually autistic children cannot sit down for more than 2 or 3 minutes and concentrate on the same task as most of us can do, so that's why we could do that. I actually added the last picture because it's funny how they give him an onion to match, like of all the things, an onion. And I think that's a garlic too, so it's kind of funny. The next one is speech and language therapy. Includes physical exercises, speech drills to improve clarity, and sound production practices to improve articulation. Students use a lot of hand motions, such as this for I want, this for more, and this for all done, because it's easier for them to understand and communicate with their parents or therapists. So for example, in the first picture, they would give them an option of 2 images. So first, the child will signal, I want, and then the therapist would give them 2 options, and once the child chooses one, let's say he chooses the one that says books, because he wants to read or something, then the therapist would say, okay, I want books. So then the child would try to say the word books or any type of, or any way that he can, and if they try any attempt, they would mark it down as a success, because he tried to say the word, even if he didn't say it wrong. The last one is occupational therapy. It's designed to gain an understanding of the individual's skills and challenges and help them become more effective in their everyday lives. This is what a typical OT classroom looks like. As you can see, it also helps with their motor skills, such as throwing a ball or swinging from a rope and jumping on the mini trampoline that they have there. As I said before, I had an amazing internship at 2 autistic centers in May. The first one is Sunny Days Preschool. They have a Monday through Thursday 9 a.m. to noon schedule. They have a total of 9 students, 8 boys and 1 girl, and they have more than 10 therapists all the time. I also noticed that not all the children attended each day, and I asked, and they said that the insurance and their parent contribution determines how many days they attend school, and if the child would have a one-on-one therapy, which only around 2 or 3 have. I noticed that they had different abilities and interests. For example, a boy who couldn't talk, who was very good at doing puzzles all by himself. So this is funny. Each morning he would come in so excited, get the same puzzle, and it's numbers 1 through 20. So he would put the first piece and then walk around to inspect that it was the correct piece, and then add the second one, again do his circle to make sure that it was correct until he finished it. So he didn't mind that it took him more time than normal kids do, but it was just his way of knowing that he was doing something correctly and that he liked. Also a girl, it's not her, for confidentiality, I couldn't take pictures or say their names. The only girl in the classroom, she could actually speak better than others, but she did have difficulties when it came to sharing or taking turns with other kids. So for example, when they played Connect 4, she would get very upset if the other students didn't know how to play or weren't turns because she knew how. So that was a little bit upsetting. So that is what a typical schedule looks like for sunny days. As you can see, each week they have a different theme, concept, and letter of the week. For that week, which is Mother's Day on Sunday, I believe. The theme was Mother's Day, the concept of the week was colors, and the letter was M. I'll quickly go over the Monday schedule to give you a better understanding of what a typical classroom looks like for them. So arrival and tabletop activity. Each morning, while the therapists wait for all the students to arrive, they don't all arrive at the same time, the teacher, Jessica, would put a tabletop activity. Today's activity was watercoloring. So the students would have a chance to choose from playing with toys, doing puzzles, or watercoloring. Now, unfortunately, this was not a popular activity, as no kid wanted to do this. They all left it there, exactly how the teacher had prepared it. But it was fun. It was just a way to see that the students would take initiative to go and sit down and try something new. The next one is individual and group sensory activity, the bubble machine. So for this one, the purpose was to see that the students were able to touch new objects and see the texture and not freak out or think that it's something new. This is a very simple activity. They simply turn on the bubble machine and see how the kids reacted. The kids very much loved the bubbles. They loved popping the bubbles. They were jumping up and down and screaming and very excited. Except for the ones who couldn't or they didn't know how to pop bubbles. So the teachers would gently grab their hands and show them like, look, bubbles, bubbles, or try to say the word. The next one is centers. It's more like a group activity for all the students to come together. They did a tabletop match game, which it was just to match 4 simple tabletop pictures, just to match them. Some kids were much better at doing it by themselves. They could grab the pens and draw the lines. For other students who were, when they're not interested, it's difficult to have their attention and be there at the table to do it. So they would only do, okay, let's just do this one, and then you can go take a break and then come back. So the little mini tests for them. And then they had individual work. So every kid is different, like I said, they have different abilities, so they all have different goals. For this one, for example, the kid who loved doing puzzles, each time he wanted another piece, he would have to signal, I want, and then perform a small task. For example, stomp on your feet, or touch your head, or touch your nose, to see how well he performed to those tasks. And then there were bathroom and snack time, Hello Circle, which all the students sat around the teacher and started singing songs, and good wording songs to every single student who was there that day. Not all students participated, who did not want to, they of course can't sing or they can't say stuff, but therapists did grab their hands to try to wave or try to say hello to their peers. And then they had bathroom and snack time. They usually give them Cheerios or some sort of cereal. It's all gluten-free, so good for their diet. And they usually give them in small portions. So the child wants more, they would have to, of course, signal, I want, and then choose the picture that they want, like Cheerios or Cocoa Puffs or something that they prefer. At the end, and most students were good at this, they would get up, pick up their plate, and put it in the sink. So after many practices, all of them were able to do that by themselves, which is very surprising. Playground. This time they have a small playground outside of the school. This is a time that allowed for the students to have their own free and relaxing time without a teacher telling them, let's do this, let's do that, let's do this, right? So the students enjoyed being on their own because they love being like that. One of them liked playing with dirt, and he was very possessive by this dirt. He's like, this is mine, like his own little corner, like it's really funny. And the other ones did go down the slides, so that was pretty good. Then they had direct instructions, which was again another matching game for the students. And like I said before, some students were not able to do it, and the ones who could were getting irritated by how long the game was taking because not everyone was doing it right. Then they had movement, dance, that's similar to the playground. They have free time, they go back to the OT classroom, and I'll show you a picture of that. And they have time to play with the balls or any other thing. And they usually put music at this time because they say it relaxes their brains. And then they had art. Each activity is different, usually focuses on their skills and see how well they can perform by themselves. Art is usually a difficult section for these children, as usually by the end of the day they're very tired. And they cannot do the activities by themselves. Usually they can glue stick by themselves, color inside the lines, or even cut paper or something like that. So it gets frustrating for the students to do that. And then they had Goodbye Circle, which is similar to Hello Circle. They again sit around teacher Jessica and sing goodbye songs until they wait for their parents to come and pick them up at night. And then the second place I visited was Spaces. They had the same therapy, ABA therapy, but it was more child-led, which meant that the child chose their activities that he or she wanted to play, and then they followed the instructions that the therapist said. So for example, for the 2 hours that I observed for each child, it was a one-on-one therapy. The child would just go around, find a toy that they were interested in, bring it back to the table, play it, and then go back, put it back, and get another game. So it's just for 2 hours. So it was very different from sunny days. That was more structured. And they both had little to no verbal skills. So now you're wondering, okay, so why are they the smartest brains? I'm glad you asked. See, they're all here. Their hidden potential. What I learned from observing at these 2 autistic centers, from my research and from my personal involvement in autism, is that they're all special and unique individuals. They are smart, charismatic, kind, full of energy, and full of love. Some may even confuse their lack of showing emotions with having no emotions at all, which is not true. Many lack vocal skills, and some never get to tell their loved ones how much they love them, even though they feel it. It is as if they're trapped in their own little world, and they're trying to conform to our societal norms. These children can become our next geniuses, such as Einstein, Michelangelo, Picasso, and Mozart, who are all believed to have Asperger's disorder. Or they can become famous singers. As some of you may know, that 2009 Britain's Got Talent contestant Susan Boyle is autistic. So I believe we owe it to them and to us as a society to try to understand and help them, to see the world through their perspective. They will continue to impress us each day, and I only hope that more of their work is recognized. So this concludes my presentation, and thank you for being a great audience. So these are 4 places, if you would like to visit an autistic place. The last one, actually, Cecil, that's where my brother went when he was 1 to 3 years old, so I'm very familiar with him. Yeah. So I think we have a little bit of time for Q&A.